PSSA. I don't know if any of all y'all have been here before, but we're the Local Science Student Association. This week's topics is tariffs and like economy type stuff. So if you guys have thoughts on anything, feel free to like jump on in. I'll also say we're still looking for topics for next week. So if you guys have a topic that you guys want to cover, message in the group chat, message us on Instagram, reach out to one of us, and we'll try and cover it. As well as the week after next, we'll be helping out with a First Amendment event, and it'll be Constitution Day. So, awesome.
Yeah, I think we might want to do maybe a lead into Constitution Week with something next week. We'll think of something. For those of you who have not been here before, we do this every week right here. You are all welcome. You don't have to be a member of the Political Science Student Association to participate. We welcome everybody. I will be passing around an attendance sheet. If you want to verify your attendance, sign the sheet. And if you put a faculty name next to your name, I will contact that faculty member. I can't guarantee they'll do anything about it, but I will verify that you attended. And I'll pass that around in a few minutes. So, who's going to start?
I like to start.
Go ahead.
First, let's define what a tariff is.
Okay, yeah, that's a good idea.
A tariff is a tax on imported goods. Easy, simple.
Is it that easy?
I mean, if you look from history in the 1820s, we had the tariff of abominations that said that South Carolina almost seceded because they want to nullify one of the tariffs. It almost led to civil war, but it didn't. It hurt southern farmers in the end, but for the northern factories, it didn't impact them as much.
Okay, now some people are saying that these tariffs are going to bring money, all sorts of money into the U.S. economy. Other people are saying that Americans are going to wind up paying for this. What's the deal with that?
Yeah, I think it's important to really highlight that there's a couple different aspects which will impact the American people, because it's not just straightforward that these are taxes paid by the other country. It's paid by the importers. In the United States, we've had the luxury of this free market economy where we can import and export whatever we want. And we've grown accustomed to it. We love buying our goods from China and so on and so forth. So this can see a real damper on the American economy and American ideals of this free trade. And people don't like their products getting expensive. That's kind of the idea of American consumerism, and this could be a detriment to how our economy operates.
I think it's definitely already more tariffs are just gonna cause right away more expenses, because other countries they have way cheaper labor, they have way cheaper products. Although it might be a good idea maybe in the long run for tariffs, it honestly right away it's going to cause so much more expense right now, especially with maybe even losing certain goods that we've grown accustomed to and that sort of thing.
Yeah, I agree to some extent. It's one of those things where it has to be hard or difficult before it gets easier in the long run. So I would like to think that Trump's cutting of expenses in other places is perhaps to make up for the immediate effect of the tariffs, but I know also some people aren't too happy about a lot of those cuts either. But I do think he's trying to account, or the team is trying to account for that immediate effect.
Now, it does seem like a lot of people are unhappy with this. Are they misinformed, or are they onto something? Are any of you feeling the effects of this, or is it just media, or what's going on?
I think people have a good reason to worry in a lot of ways, because tariffs haven't necessarily been done in this way before, I don't think, because like it's very small incremental percentages that tariffs will go up, whereas this is like a large percentage for a tariff. And some of the things that he's putting tariffs on are also stuff that we can't necessarily get from our own economy, because like things like stuff that they use in like computers and stuff aren't things that can be mined here in the United States. We just don't have the natural resources for some of the things. And so now we're seeing like certain items that we can't cover for are getting a lot more expensive. And I know there's a lot of worries in that, and also the fact that I just don't think we've done tariffs in this sort of way before. People just don't know what the outcome of it will be in like the long run.
So you think it's just uncertainty?
I think a lot of it has to do with uncertainty.
Okay.
I personally don't like the whole thing with tariffs. I doubt the whole thing with during his election campaign of him saying that we're going to implement tariffs on pretty much almost every imported good from almost every single country on earth was already a stupid idea, because again, if you looked at history, we tried doing that before, and what did that cause? The entire Great Depression to go worldwide. Even though we weren't in a depression, I'm just saying though is that we have examples from previous times in US history that when we implement taxes and tariffs on imported goods on the rest of the world, it stops world trade and it does not help the US economy really at all. And one other big thing too is that a lot of the tariffs that Trump campaigned on during his campaign that's saying like we're going to implement these tariffs, he keeps delaying them. The big ones on China, he has not done those yet. He keeps pushing them back month after month, month after month. At this point, I'm genuinely believing that he's just going to keep doing it till the last month of his presidency, implement it, and then just leave, and then everyone's going to forget about it. Like, he has not done anything with that yet, and it just seems like that was a massive failure on his part.
This is more of just like a quick like joke type thing. But one of the things I saw like having to do with the tariffs is that like a lot of the tea has been taxed, and I just thought it was really funny because there's a lot of like memes of basically they're taxing our tea, like when do we go to the harbor?
Yeah.
I understand the base idea of trying to like reorient manufacturing to the United States. A lot of blue collar workers are suffering, especially in the Rust Belt and West Virginia with the coal, and that's where a lot of Trump's base is. He's trying to get the white working man on his side, and I understand trying to bring these jobs back to the United States, but the manufacturing issues is that the corporations here are going to try and get the cheaper labor abroad, and that we're not really going to see a lot of the effects of bringing manufacturing back to the United States, especially if he doesn't hold with the tariffs. I think, like matter of fact, is that consumers are going to face upcharges because of the tariffs. And I understand the idea of reorienting manufacturing, but the way that he's going about it is not going to work, because he won't stick to a plan. He won't stick to the fact that like, oh, we're going to take this loss and we're going to put American manufacturing back. He's just kind of just like saying and not doing anything.
No, you're completely right. The whole thing of bringing back blue-collar industries back to the United States is kind of like a fleeting dream that a lot of people still grasp onto. A lot of people still think, oh, we can bring it back, we can do it, we can revitalize the Rust Belt, we can do that. We've tried this multiple times throughout multiple different presidencies of trying to revive the Rust Belt since the collapse, like you could say in the 70s and 80s, and it has not worked. The U.S. economy is not built with manufacturing anymore as its forefront. It is it's more tech, it's consumerism, it's not manufacturing. As a country develops and gets richer, people move away from those industries. People will move, and yes, it's very sad that there are millions of people in the U.S. that are still working in blue-collar industries, but that is just a dying industry, and there's not really any way to fix it unless, I can't even say there's not really any way you can really fix it. It's something that, it's just progress. We can't really turn back the clock anymore. You can't really do that, and tariffs are not going to fix that.
Some of that also is just like modified jobs. So like some of the industries that have moved back, sort of like we saw like some of the car manufacturing plants trying to move back. A lot of them are robotics based now. Mm-hmm. So they're now have these blue collar workers have to be trained in a different area, and it's this weird like catch up game, because there a lot of people, the way they were taught, people that were, say, doing blue collar work in the 80s and stuff, they're not prepared to do like the robotics that they need to for these like new plants and stuff, because now instead of having like 12 people on an assembly line, it's now 3 people all operating robotics. And not to say that's a good thing, not to say that it's a bad thing, but the problem there is that we aren't prepared for the reality that machines are, even in these blue collar industries, are becoming more and more common, whether it's in the United States or anywhere else. So now people need to be more trained in working those machineries than doing the jobs that they used to do.
Yeah. I think it brings up an interesting point of if, like in this hypothetical, like fairyland idea that the tariffs do work and American industries come back and the jobs aren't going to be the same as they were 30, 40 years ago when they left to China. Like you said, they're going to be very robotics oriented. A lot of the training that people have got is not going to be relevant anymore. And the jobs aren't going to be operating in the same way. I think even if a lot of jobs came back, it's still a lot of people wouldn't be qualified and wouldn't be able to work those jobs. So you would still have a similar issue.
No, that's completely fair. Like, you're right. It's blue collar industries are, even though you're still, it does require still a lot of work with your hands. It is turning still into more of an educational based thing. You still need a lot of this training and expertise that, again, you didn't need back in the 80s. The 80s, the 60s, 70s, 80s, you could just, any Joe Schmo could go apply at a factory 1 week of trying to learn how to do it, and now he's mastered it, and he can do whatever the hell that they're trying to teach him to do. That's not what it is anymore. Really, the only way you can really revert going back to then is by lowering, it's a sad thing to say, but lowering education standards, because you get stupider people to work in this industries, but we're not doing that because that will be detrimental to the entire economy just to revive one specific sector of an economy. So there's no way you can fix this situation. It's a lose-lose. You're either gonna dumb down the population and ruin more industries, or you're just gonna lose this manufacturing industry.
I guess that leads me to asking a question, is that instead of tariffs, would you like to see a reorienting of either like education or investment into new fields that we don't really see in the United States, instead of trying to get manufacturing back?
Well, that's an interesting question. I mean, if these jobs are not going to come back, then what do we do? I mean, how do we take care of people who are going to lose out? Supposedly, at least from proponents, the idea of tariffs is to bring money back in to the U.S. and bring manufacturing back in, to get plants and factories, products being made in the United States again that have been exported to other countries over the decades. But it sounds as though most of you are suggesting that that's basically a myth. And if it is a myth, then what do we do?
I think also just like focusing on the blue collar things that we offer maybe here. Like, if you're a good electrician, you can make as much as a doctor. Like, if you want to go in towards a blue collar field, there are options that you can go into. It's not always easy, but having like more funding into like technical schools and stuff for the people that want to go down that path, whether it's plumbing, electrician, or like there's a lot of areas, even like construction. Like, we're constantly needing new buildings. Everybody always needs a repair on something. People need those workers. They have good jobs and they have good income. I think focusing more on a shift into different types of work would be good. And also, as much as a focus on like the Rust Belt and industrial type jobs are, I think maybe also a shift in towards like farming too would be a good idea, and focusing on also and making our farms better, not having like such a monopoly like Purdue owns every chicken basically ever right now. Having like an expansion on like the farming industry too, and also making sure that farmers have a good pay and that we're getting some of our own local goods, and also selling to other countries our own local goods. Like our big corn industry is as big as it is partly because of Mexico, because Mexico buys a bunch of the corn for like masa and like everything else there. So having that like industry trade and focusing on our farming industry, I think would be very beneficial too.
Well, let me play devil's advocate a little bit and suggest, haven't we been trying those kinds of things in the past? I mean, if this doesn't work, then what does? Because again, things like job training and educational benefits, I mean, these have all been government programs in the past. Are we just doomed or what?
To give, I don't even know if this is giving credit, but in Donald Trump's attack on like higher education, he did kind of create this idea of like bolstering trade schools and that those sort of fields, just because it is like that's more of his base, is like this idea of the common man. But people go like here to institutions to try and get higher education because they see it as a better job security because of these same issues of the tariffs. Why are we doing the tariffs? Because we don't feel like there's enough manufacturing or these like blue collar jobs, so you have to go to school to get an education to get a job. People are just worried about job security, and I think if we, I don't know if necessarily incentivize, but create an idea that these other jobs are more of an option, we won't have such a job security issue even in these like higher wage fields. Like we've been seeing issues where there's been too many coders and not enough coding jobs, and with AI it's only going to get worse.
I think a lot of it also has to do with our attitude as a society towards blue collar work. Like people see like technical schools and technical jobs as not as being as important as certain other jobs, and almost thankless in some ways, where it shouldn't be that way. Like they're just as important as any other member participating in society, and that these are important jobs that can provide for a family, they can provide for someone. So I think changing the attitude towards certain jobs would affect it a lot. I lost my train of thought.
And others? Yeah.
I think going back to like what you were talking about with like farming and everything, like we do have government programs, but I can see why people don't find security in that, because these government programs, they're bolstering up companies that are already successful, like Purdue, and like the smaller farms and smaller like companies that sell these things. Like the government does not help them at all. Like in fact, like sometimes they're causing a detriment because they're giving all of these extra resources to the already successful huge monster companies and farms that are already have been for like years and years. So
at least when it comes to like farming, there's a lot of issues when it comes to farming, just because like you have these big corporations, even like things like John Deere tractors, they have a monopoly on certain types of tractors, and they will not allow anyone besides a John Deere technician to touch your tractor. If they find out someone else has touched your tractor, they will no longer help you. They will not service your tractor. They won't give you any supplies for it, and they'll do like other things. That's why a lot of farmers have like tried to move away from it, but it's hard when, especially like I mentioned Purdue, they have their hands in so many different areas that it makes it almost impossible to avoid them. And you have these big corporations taking up these small farms that are also getting price gouged, because you have people moving out to farmland because they're like, oh, it's so pretty, and then it raises up the taxes and stuff. Or you have these big farms that will buy land around it, do some infrastructure, basically raise up the tax where people can't afford it. They can't afford their own family farms anymore, and then they'll take it. And they'll use those strategies to take these like small farm areas, and it's just happened over and over and over again, where you have basically these like 3-4 big companies that own most of our agricultural, and that needs to change for us to have like a good farming environment.
There have been lots of, over the years and decades, there have been lots and lots of major mergers of companies into larger companies. You rarely see companies splitting up, or when you do, it's two huge companies splitting up into slightly smaller, huge companies. I don't know if it applies to the agriculture industry, but I believe there's been a sort of a right to repair movement that suggests that companies should not be forcing you to use their people to repair your products, the things that you own. And again, I don't know if that applies to the agriculture industry or not. One of the things I was going to ask was whether or not any of this applies to you personally. Maybe not you personally, but I mean, we here are not a particularly representative sample of the United States, let alone the state of Georgia. But I wonder if any of you have either personal experience with these kinds of economic distress issues, or know of people, family members, friends, community members that have experienced this kind of distress that we're kind of, I mean, it seems like we're kind of flailing around trying all sorts of different things. Tariffs are just the latest thing. Do you know of anybody?
I think here as a people today, we see a lot of the negative impacts of the tariffs. We see the prices of our goods going up. We see on TV that, oh, our gas prices are going to go up. All these different things that we interact with on a daily basis as like consumers. But we never see more of the positive impact in this hypothetical if jobs do come back. Because we're not going to be working those manufacturing jobs. And a lot of people in the United States won't. We won't see those positive impacts inside of it. We only see, hey, the prices of our goods are going up and so on and so forth. So we're not able to really like empathize, or I don't know about empathize, but really feel those sort of things.
Others?
I think at least here in like we're on the south tail end of the Appalachians. I feel like we can feel it a lot, especially in the mountains, because this area has like struggled for a long time when it comes to things like this. I think a lot of people have almost an instantaneous fear, whether it's from family that they had that experienced things. Like I was told a lot about how my grandparents are from northern Appalachia, like in Kentucky type area, and they would talk about growing up during the Great Depression type era and how it wasn't warm then, how scary it was, those types of things. And they like pass down that information to kids. Like you'd be worried when the 2008 crisis happened. Like you saw things, everybody was scared, everybody was trying to make sure that they can still live and provide for their family, especially when you come from somewhere that's kind of poor. Like my mom's disabled. Whenever things like big changes in government funding happen, she's at risk of either having her disability cut some or cut completely. That's a very scary thing when you come from a poor family. And seeing stuff like that move down, seeing like things like shrinkflation happen where things like would normally be like a whole package of stuff or like a 24 pack basically being like 12 pack at the same price. It's scary because you see these things slowly happening and you're like, is this going to be another thing where we're like, I'm gonna have to start canning and hoping I have food, or is this gonna be we're a little scared, we're tight for a few years, but we'll be okay? Like, how do you like approach that without being incredibly nervous about it?
Yeah, now you mentioned the 1930s, and that was a time, especially, you're right, we are at the southern end of Appalachia. In fact, I'm sure you all know that the area around Apicolola Falls is the southern tip of the Appalachian Trail. And this was an area that into the 20th century was still living in what you would call 19th or even 18th century conditions. Lots of homes in that particular area with no electricity. And living in essentially cabins and not really homes. Now back then, It was, and by the way, I've seen some of these. You can find on YouTube films that were produced by the WPA, the Works Progress Administration, during the 1930s and the Roosevelt administration, touting what they were doing to help people. Back then, it was a combination of education and infrastructure. One of the big things around the area, exactly the area that you're talking about, was a series of locks and dams in the rivers to control the flow of rivers all around that area, so that farmland wouldn't be flooded every single year at a particular time, and so that you could grow crops or certain types. I'm not the expert, so I don't know all the details, but so that you could grow crops or certain types of crops on a regular basis. You could plan ahead without having to worry about everything being wiped out. And it was combined with education, teaching farmers in the area about modern farming techniques so that they could learn. What do we do today?
I mean, at least right now, there's been a lot of progress, and I won't say that there hasn't been, but the Appalachians are still fairly poor. Even Dahlonega, like, I know a lot of students, they see like just the city, and that's like our like rich area, and there are people that have like good funding, and there's been more like people moving out this way and whatnot. But it is a fairly poor county, even in comparative to the other counties in Georgia. The Appalachians are still in a lot of struggle. It's still one of the poorest areas in the United States, and a lot of stuff that other states or other areas have, we either just got it or we don't have it very well. Like, our electricity has gotten so much better since I was a kid, but like I grew up here, and I remember our electric, sometimes if there was a storm that would come through, we'd be without electricity for like a month, where that's like not normal for a lot of people. Most people still have wells here, so they have well water, not city water, and honestly I kind of prefer that, if I'm being honest. I don't have good water, so that's like one few benefits. I still miss, my aunt used to have spring water, like fresh spring. That was awesome. But there's drawbacks to it, whereas like a lot of houses are very old. A lot of stuff that's here, like we're just now getting like good internet. Good internet.
I was gonna say, put that in heavy quotation marks because I have some awful internet where I'm at.
Yeah, I was used to as a kid sometimes being out without internet for a few weeks, and then like you just wait and you just like stare and it just will it load. And this was up until like high school. Recently, you just like now are getting like where it's like, oh, it goes out like maybe once a month. But it's still like a lot of the infrastructure here, like our plumbing on the square. I don't know if you guys seen where they were working on some of that stuff. It was because either it was old iron pipes, or most likely it was just dirt that was dug out. That was it. Our infrastructure was not ready for more people. And that's a lot of the Appalachia. It's either incredibly old and kind of broken, or it's just not there. And so whenever bad things like tariffs aren't bad, but like when we have bad economy stuff happens, we feel it really hard because we can't prepare in some of the ways that other areas can.
Okay, first Nona, and then we'll go to you with that.
Really funny you bring that up, actually. I was in the shower yesterday and my power went out. Okay, fantastic. And my county, like I just moved into there, and the county road, I didn't know this till I went to go sign the lease. The county just doesn't claim it. They're like, okay, good luck, guys. Like, if you decided to live out there, that sounds like a you problem. And like my trash is picked up by like a guy in an F-150. So totally what you're saying. And I'm from Florida, so I found this all kind of really fascinating because then I went to go volunteer in Forsyth at the thrift store, and they were like, oh yeah, we're the richest county in Georgia. And I was like, what? Like, what do you mean? So I found that really interesting, and I think a lot of it, like, it's really easy for us to look to like federal, probably like throughout history, not just right now or recently or recent polarization, but like it's easy for us to want to look towards federal and be like, why haven't these areas of the country caught up with other areas on infrastructure, especially Appalachia, just because it is a fascinating topic. But I feel like we have to look then inwards to if there are funds being distributed to these areas. I had a professor talk about this a while ago. It's more about, are those funds going to the right places? How can we make sure that those funds are going to the right places? Because if you're not following through, if you're not following the money trail, so to speak, then you'll find your answers pretty quickly. So I think it's interesting to look at internal corruption, and you're totally right. Those are the areas that get hit the hardest, times 100, when we do have hardships and crises. So yeah, it's been interesting as an outsider to look into that in this area.
Okay, we'll go over here and then back.
Well, I was going to raise more of a question on what you guys think is the solution. You brought up the TVA, the Tennessee Valley Authority, which is part of the New Deal program. Do we see?
Yeah, actually, I mentioned the work's progress. It is that, but it's also the TVA.
And I was wondering whether do we see the solution to a lot of these issues like infrastructure and internet, especially in Appalachia, which is, I guess, the area that we're most concerned with. That's our area. Do we see federal investment as the solution to a lot of these issues, rather than we're going to tariff for like importers and multinational corporations? Do you see the priorities of the federal government being the wrong priorities?
Anybody want to quickly address that? If not, we'll... Okay.
I'm sorry to ignore your question, but because I thought of something, but I do want to go back to your question once I'm done with saying whatever I was going to say. I'm originally from Woodstock, Georgia, down in Cherokee. So when I first came up here, I was also very, I wouldn't say shocked, because I definitely experienced cruddy electricity, cruddy internet. But when I went up here, I moved into my house and I was getting like a megabyte per second. And if someone else is using the internet at the same time, you just don't download anything. And it just kind of like blew my mind. I'm like, wow. And I remember asking my roommates, like, can we get better internet? It's like, oh yeah, no, we've tried. And they just say, yeah, your area just doesn't have any coverage. You're just out of luck. And it just kind of like, wow, no, that's definitely a different world to what I'm used to. But another thing I was going to say is one of the things we're seeing now, especially in the last few years, this county, and I guess you said just the surrounding counties, population-wise is growing rapidly. We're noticing a lot of people from either out of state or in-state, mainly from the suburbs or in the city, moving out to more rural areas like this to get cheaper housing and everything. Thing is, though, we're definitely seeing the start, you can already tell, of gentrification around this area, of how we're starting to build these really nice apartment buildings, these really nice new flashy type of just anything really. But these people who were here originally, they can't really afford it anymore, and they get driven out, and they can't afford to live in this area now. And we're starting to see that as people keep moving up here, the people who are already established here, they can't afford it anymore, and they have to move further into even more poorer areas, which is really sad.
At least on that same topic, that is definitely something that I've seen even just since I've started college here, especially for college housing and apartments. When I first started here, and whenever I was a senior in high school, I had a few college friends because I grew up in the area. I knew someone who was able to get a apartment. Mind you, she had 3 roommates for, I want to say $350.
It's a steal.
That was a steal then, I will say that. But average, I would probably say then was around 500. It's now probably 800.
Yeah.
800, 900 with 4 roommates, and you're hoping that it's that, and electricity and whatever's included. But everything has gone up. Housing tax, we thankfully, my family has, we get at least taxed a little bit less because of my mom's disability. There's a program that basically you have less housing tax if you're disabled, which is thankful because it's still going up some. Our electricity, this time of year I would be paying $300 in electricity. It's now $500. And it's not even good electricity. As they've been adding more and more people people into these areas. Like when I was growing up, we didn't have a housing area across from us. We now have a bunch of houses that are across from us, and they're all on the same electricity like line. They're all on the same, what is it called? Same like box. You know, the
Substation? Like, or power supply? Or?
yeah, they're all on the same like pole. That thing has exploded 3 times.
Oh, you mean like transformer?
Transformer.
That's what you meant.
Thank
Okay.
you. It has exploded 3 times in the past 2 years.
Yeah, it's getting overloaded.
I'll like hear this loud boom and then everything goes dark and then I look outside and it's like, oh, it's on fire again. Hopefully they get here. It's like that. We're not ready for the amount of people that are moving here because we haven't funded to help the people that are already here and the infrastructure that's already not ready for it.
Do you think that we've become numb to that? Do you think that people should be speaking out more, or do people just, you know, this is my weirdness, but this to me reminds me of, believe it or not, the Declaration of Independence, okay? Where in writing the Declaration of Independence, one of the things Thomas Jefferson said was people are used to, people are willing to put up with stuff.
Yeah.
They said, you know, people are willing to put up with stuff. It's only when there is a long, they call it a long train of abuses, that people might rebel. Are we just reflecting that? Are we just putting up with too much? Do you think there's going to be a time when people react a little bit more than just taking it, or just saying, oh well, it's blown up again, and that's it?
I think at least in this area it's kind of hard because we do see our like representatives and stuff, and I do think a lot of locals they try and help each other. They try and do good. We have a lot of programs in this area that are really trying to help the locals, and there's really good people here, but they can't overcome every single problem that is already here. And then we look at like previous generations, even just like the generation before me, they were like, well, we didn't have plumbing or electricity, or we didn't have none of these things. You guys are really lucky because you have these things. And so we try not to take for granted what we've already like made for progress, but also I think in doing so we may like prevent further progress from happening.
Yeah, go ahead.
I think that a lot of the issues that we're seeing like right now is of the brunt of the affordability crisis. I think a lot of people in the bigger cities have kind of dealt with this idea of things getting more expensive, and we're struggling. And now we're seeing it up here because those same people are moving out to try and find a more affordable area like Dahlonega. The reason why Dahlonega is so affordable is because the jobs that are here don't pay as much as the jobs that are in the city. These same issues of people leaving here is going to create affordability issues for the locals, such as like the gentrification and so on and so forth. And that's only going to amplify here in rural communities that don't have as much exposure or infrastructure or funding.
To answer the kind of train of abuses question, I'm from Cocoa Beach, Florida, which a lot of people have probably been there on vacation with their family or something. And I do think that there is like a breaking point with how many people can move to a place, or even just like tourism in a place. And we have the combination here as well of people moving and that busy summer season that just kind of all culminates and makes things really expensive all at the same time. But I feel like a place like Florida is a lot closer to revolting over a bunch of people moving there versus like Georgia, just because it's so intense.
The interesting, and I don't mean that in a good way, thing about that is that it's a kind of damned if you do and damned if you don't, because the states that are gaining in population a lot have that infrastructure problem and providing for people and jobs, et cetera, et cetera. But the states that are losing are also struggling because they lose the tax base.
And I think there's like mutual benefits as well, and a mutual understanding. When people move here, personally, I'm like, oh, good for you, you got out of Atlanta, because I couldn't live there for a day if I tried. And like, so there's a mutual understanding of why they're coming here, and then also like I don't think everybody was that upset when like Whataburger and Chick-fil-A were put in here, you know? Like I think there are some small benefits that come with it that do help with overlooking some of the downsides.
Okay, we'll go here and then that.
one of the biggest problems of why people just keep spreading out with the suburban sprawl that has been happening since pretty much the car was invented in the US, and with the car-centric infrastructure that this country has been plagued with, it all stems back to not in my backyard type ideas where people just refuse to allow certain things to get built. Like one of the big things in major cities, so many people just flat out refuse high density buildings because they're like, I don't want that near me because I don't want to have that because I don't want more people around me, which causes the people to spread out, causes that suburban sprawl, that causes them to come over here in more rural areas, and causes the whole other problem. People, I don't want these people here now. So where do these people go? You can't really solve it because the whole thing of like, I don't want this happening in my backyard follows everyone. Everyone, no one wants to have anyone in their backyard like that. No one wants to have a massive skyscraper right behind them, or someone to have massive amount of like a highway getting built near them, or a train station. But that's the thing that's starting to happen, is that with like the asking about are people getting fed up, is how much more do people take before they start realizing we have to act. They have to do that.
I think at least for here, I think most people would not be upset at there being more people coming in if it wasn't for the fact that it was like pricing them out,
That's the problem.
and that
Yeah.
the infrastructure just wasn't ready. If we could somehow balance, especially with the infrastructure, because legitimately it's like something's gonna crash, something's gonna happen where it's not gonna go well if we get too many people moving in. We're just not ready for some of the things, and like we try in like Copeland, we try in like our big tourist season is like fall, winter, all that Christmas stuff. If you guys are like not freshmen, you probably at least experience some of the traffic that we get around then. Gold Rush as a local is a slight nightmare to me because it's like 200,000 people all packed in one little area. They literally did numbers, it's around 200,000 people in this town. It's not ready for that. It has never been ready for that. But yet it still happens, and everybody has to like recoup from that. But now we're seeing like we're steadily getting more and more people. Like we were a town of what, like 5,000, and then when the college comes in, it's an extra like 4,000 people. And then we get tourists that come in, and then more people are moving. We're just not ready. So like, how can we prepare fast enough? Or can there be like a cap for an area until like infrastructure can be made to where we can sustain that? How do we help and make sure locals can still stay where they have grew up and lived? I don't know how we can balance all of those things, and I just don't think that there's a great decision, but something needs to be done to at least help alleviate some of the problems from it.
Well, just from a personal standpoint, in the 30 years that I've been here, 30 plus years, when I started here, this campus was 2,500 students. And now it is what? It's over 8,000, if I'm
Is it
correct.
like closer to 10,000 at this point?
I don't know if it's 10,000 just yet, but yeah, it seems
getting
that
to
way.
that,
Is
yeah.
right. Is exactly right. And so just the student population, forget about the community, just the student population has more than tripled in the 3 decades that I've been here. As we head towards the end, why don't we, like maybe one final round of what does the future hold? What do you think? Is anything going to happen? Is it going to be more of the same? Are people going to rise up? Are we just going to keep taking it? Are tariffs the answer? What do you see for the future? Look into your crystal balls and tell us, what do you think is going to happen? Nothing or something?
At least locally, I see more people moving out here, more people trying to get like that small mountain lifestyle, and then something infrastructurally is probably gonna happen. I feel like if I'm already having my like transformer explode, I feel like something's gonna happen. We're gonna go dark for maybe like a couple weeks.
Yeah.
Water's gonna stop. I don't know what's gonna happen, but I think maybe not even just in Dahlonega, but like somewhere around us, Dawsonville, somewhere where like a lot of people are like flooding to that aren't quite ready yet, might get hit hard.
Yeah, something's gonna snap in the next few years. If we just have this more unregulated growth in this area, something's bound to go wrong in this area, like she's saying, with either electricity, with water, with traffic. That's the big one. That our roads just simply cannot handle it. The road that leads from here out to 400. On Fridays, I'm stuck in it for at least 15 to 20 minutes because everyone and their mom is trying to go home, and it's just horrible. It's just like we can't have this infrastructure that's made for 5,000 people trying to supply for. Honestly, now it feels like 20 to 30,000 people just coming in and out constantly on a weekly basis. It can't handle it. Something's going to happen where there's either going to be public outcry, or just something is going to happen where people are just going to start protesting. It's like we need something to be fixed. We can't have this any longer. Something's just bound to happen.
At least they're trying. They are implementing new like plumbing, and they've been trying to prevent the college from adding on. The city has, because they're like, we don't have the infrastructure yet. We don't have the infrastructure yet from our students. So we'll see how it goes. I mean, the college is still growing though. They're still adding more students, and the city's trying to keep up. We'll see how well they do. But I do want to go ahead and close y'all out.
Yeah.
I want to thank y'all for coming here, participating in the discussion. Also, if you guys have any thoughts or what you want to maybe cover for next week, let us know. And I hope to see you guys there.
Good.
What should you cleaning? What should you?